This is the FlipNerd.com Expert Real Estate Investing Show, the show for real estate investors, whether you're a veteran or brand new. I'm your host, Mike Hambright, and each week I bring you a new expert guest that will share their knowledge and lessons with you. If you're excited about real estate investing, believe in personal responsibility, and taking control of your life and financial destiny, you're in the right place. This is episode number 437, and my guest today is Brandon Smith, who operates out of Houston, Texas. Brandon and his family have bought about 500 houses over the last 9 years and have truly built a family business with several family members working in the business. Real estate investing is actually a great business to work with your family in, but there are lots of potential pitfalls. I know because I work with my wife every day for the last 11 years. But today we discuss the pros and cons of working with family members, from determining the right seats that people should be in to overcoming conflicts that are inevitable to occur in your business. We also wrap the show. Brandon has a ton of experience around lending and banking. We wrap up the show by talking about banking and how to start building relationships right now with lenders in your market that'll serve you very well if the market starts to slow down. Let's go ahead and get started. Please help me welcome Brandon Smith to the show. Hey, Brandon, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Glad to have you on. My brother from down the road, about 5 hours in Houston.
That's right. H-Town. Love it, baby.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, I'm excited to talk about this today. I mean, we, just to let the listeners know, we always talk about, whenever I have guests on, we usually catch up for a little while before we start the show. And we're like, well, let's talk about some things we could talk about. And I know you have a family-owned business. I work with my wife, but you have your whole family, a big part of your family involved. And it's not really something that we've ever really spent a lot of time talking about. And I think real estate investors tend to be very much, husband and wife team, two brothers, father, son, lots of kind of family combinations. So I thought it would be a great opportunity to talk about that.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's been a true blessing working with family. And, since we started the business, it's always been that way. We've never really partnered up with anybody or even done, JV deals. All the stuff we've done as a family unit. Initially It started out with me and my father-in-law, and that was 9 years ago. And now he's kind of exited the business, and now working with, his children and, my brother-in-law, sister-in-laws, and so forth, and just trying to be a team unit overall. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, hey, before we kind of dive into this in too much detail, tell us a little bit about your background and what you did before you got into real estate investing 9 years ago, and kind of how you got started.
Yeah, so how we got started in real estate. I was an oil patch, and I was a headhunter making a lot of cold calls, and, at the age of, 25 to 27, I was, being pretty successful financially, as successful as a 26, 27-year-old would at the time. Yeah. And I tell you what, the oil field market was booming then. Oil was $145 a barrel. And then literally within one day, oil just, cut in half, and of course for our economy down here in Houston, it just really crippled us, And I was a small minority partner in that firm, and it ended up going under or relocating basically, and we downsized. And I had been, listening to a local radio show here in Houston, which is also plays up in Dallas, during the lunch breaks. And just, I had worked on houses as a kid. My dad he built 4 houses in Travis County, before we actually moved. I worked on all those houses as a kid, and I vowed at the age of 16 never to work on a home again. I was laying insulation in an attic, and it was 145 degrees in it, and it was just, I would never work on another house. And so what happened, the downturn of the market, my father-in-law and mother-in-law, they lost a significant amount of money in the stock market, and we just sat down over Christmas break, and he goes, what else could we maybe do to be financially set the family up and be secured, And I said, tell you what, I've been listening to the show. I know a little bit about houses. I said, let's just take a shot at it. Initially, we were only going to buy 2 houses and effectively retire, we thought. Well,
that doesn't work out for you?
It's not quite worked out that way, Yeah. I think we're closing in on just over 500 houses bought since 2009. So real close. And I think one of the biggest benefits that we had we were going to pay cash for these two houses and move down the line and make them rental properties. And I happened to know a banker, and we went into that bank, and we had no business plan. We had no model, no history. And we literally walked out with a $500,000 line of credit. And this is in 2009. There was no banking institutions.
Right.
And it was just pretty amazing that.
At least not ones that were lending to investors anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. This happened to be a new startup bank here locally, and times are tough, and they needed loans. We had capital, we had credit, and we filled up a $500,000 line of credit with rental property in about 6 months. And they go, hey, do you want another $500,000? We're like, sure, I guess. So that was fun for the family, kind of experiencing that. And then we started, we bought a lot of houses in that 2009, 2010 series, to those years, to really solidify our rental portfolio. And we still own a good amount of those houses today.
That's great. That's great. So then as things kind of grew, so let's start with you and your father-in-law, and then you started kind of bolting on more members. But before we kind of get into that, let's talk about maybe real high level. It's like I said, it's either a blessing or a curse to work with your family, right? Some people, and it's probably not for everybody, honestly, sure. Right? But I think my wife and I work together. We talked about this before. She's been on the show before one time, and we have very different skill sets. So I think that's one of the things that's helped us is like, you do these things that I'm not good at, and there's things that I do that she wouldn't be good at. And the thing is we know that. Like, we kind of joke that if it was just her, she never would have bought a house because she's very risk averse. And if it was just me, I would have ran into cash management problems a long time ago and probably wiped us out, just not from doing anything wrong, just from mismanagement of cash, which is important. But talk about that, the importance of like defining your roles, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's probably one of the toughest things as you work with your family and build out your company. And we decided to add family members just based on the trust alone. Running a business, and predominantly if you hire an acquisitions manager, there's a lot of accountability. There's a lot of I've heard some horror stories on hiring acquisitions managers where they steal the lead or they don't try to buy it deep enough. If that acquisitions manager, which is my brother-in-law, has a vested interest in the company, then he's going to work severely hard on that offer and that seller, to execute. And that was one of our first hires as far as promoting, hit him up to acquisitions manager. And then we were able to add my second brother-in-law to run the rental portfolio, and just recently added, my sister-in-law to help with some of our marketing programs. So in all of those steps and all of those additions are simply based on growth and company needs.
Yep.
You often talk about how, it's hard to hire the right person. And at the end of the day, I would rather have my family by my side than necessarily hiring you out. And we do have other people that work for us, and those people are blessings too, and they work extremely hard. And it's just that trust factor more than anything.
If you're an active real estate investor already doing deals and looking to double or triple your business, you should consider joining the Investor Fuel Real Estate Investor Mastermind. We're a small group of investors that share our best practices, tips, and tricks with one another in an effort to all win. We limit our membership to only 1 to 2 members per market, so everyone shares their knowledge, tips, and tricks openly and honestly. Our members include some buying 1 to 2 houses a month, up to some of the most respected investors and leaders in the real estate investing industry, some of which have personally done over 1,000 deals. If you'd like to be considered for our invitation-only world-class mastermind, please visit investorfuel.com to request your personal invitation. Our next meeting is coming up quickly. Go to investorfuel.com now to learn more.
They work extremely hard, and it just that trust factor more than anything. So.
Yeah, no doubt. Have you been in the situation where you have a family member, you have a kind of a role that needs to be filled? And so what I found in the past is I've always struggled with this, because I used to say, if I find a good athlete, I'll find a place for him, but the reality is like the role in the business is really what's most important, and somebody that can do that. And I know sometimes if you're limiting it to just the people around you, the family member, the trust factors there, but they may not be the best person for that role. Right. And I'm not, sometimes you just accept that. It's like, hey, they're going to be loyal. They're going to be trustworthy, and they're going to have to learn how to do this. And there's nothing wrong with that. But how do you overcome that situation of kind of putting somebody into where you need them, even though if it's not necessarily their best strength?
Yeah, so and we've been through this.
Yeah,
We
I'm
put a
sure.
couple family members where they probably weren't weren't in the best spot to excel. Not only at that specific job, but also they realize what works best for the family outcome. And we shuffled a couple of people around and got them in the right spots. And you got to do that by trial and error, sitting down to belly button and going over everything with them and just working with them on a daily basis. But yeah, we've been through those trials and tribulations as a family and finding the right spots for everybody. So
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's important. I mean, as we talked about earlier, is that the roles that we have for the individuals don't necessarily cross paths. It's a very specific role. Everybody has their own tasks or their objectives in order to create, and hopefully we can move it towards a greater good. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And we've kind of found that early on too, is like you have to divide up your responsibilities instead of just saying, hey, it's our business. We all do everything. You have to kind of define it just like you would in a Fortune 500 company, right? Like this is your seat. These are your responsibilities inside of here. Have you had any problems with people that feel like, well, this is my seat, but I really want to be in that seat? And, I can imagine some conflicts there.
yeah, I mean it happens, but I mean at the end of the day, you have to have Gary Sharper often talks about a
Yeah.
hierarchy, and we have that stuff in place,
Yeah.
and that stuff is in place for a reason to hopefully offset any objectives or any concerns. Running a family-owned company, it's you're tremendously open about everything, almost too open sometimes,
Yeah.
probably. But that's what's fun about it. That's what makes it interesting. It's not only from the 9 to 5 job, but it's when we go hang out with them over the weekend, over the holidays. It's just it doesn't stop. Whether that lead comes in over Thanksgiving, dinner, you say, hey Pat, did you grab that lead? Well, it's Thanksgiving. Well, no, we need to grab it right quick.
Yeah.
So,
It's kind of funny. Yeah, I've told you this jokingly up front. My wife and I all the time, we like have date night. We're like, we're not going to talk about work tonight. And we're like 3 minutes later, we're talking about work. But the thing is when you do, I would say this, when you do something that you really enjoy or where it's really kind of set your family up financially, like you built a strong foundation, like it is kind of our life. Like I don't really have, it's not like I have some job, some 9 to 5 job that I'm doing to survive and I really hate it. And then I come home and I'm like a different person. Like my life and my business are just kind of intertwined.
yeah.
It's just like on social media, like, I'm not a different person when I'm on the weekends and a different person during the day. Like, I'm just the same guy, but I guess, when you really enjoy what you do, it's hard to separate kind of your personal life from your business life. Right.
Yeah, and it's a huge challenge, but I definitely agree with you. It's just a part of who we are and how we've grown it to where it's at now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what do you do about conflicts? Like how do you decide, like, as a family business, like what if somebody wanted to keep more rentals and somebody wanted to flip more? Like, how do you make those decisions?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much make those decisions on a daily basis. Going back to the hierarchy of chain, but I mean, we sit down once a quarter as a family. We go over my father-in-law and mother-in-law are the capital investors within our company. And I basically kind of report back to the investors on a quarterly basis and kind of go over everything with them. So
Okay.
if we need we had a recent change in direction. I mean, we were heavy rental for many years, and over the last 3-4 years, we've started to flip a lot more houses and create that revenue that's needed to survive. And
Yeah.
we haven't grown our rental portfolio that much, but that's because our market has changed. Our appreciation in Houston is strong. I mean, year after year, we're sending 9% interest in that gap pending the subdivision. That's really significant increase.
Yeah.
For our market, it's not Las Vegas style or Miami, but 6 to 9% over year after year. That's a substantial increase.
Yeah. Yeah. We've seen the same thing here. Most of our rentals are ones, not all of them, but a lot of them we kept from '09 to '12, and they're worth 2, 3, sometimes 4 times what we paid for them now, so it's been harder to add. I think that's a common thing. When it's a retail market, when it's a seller's market, right? You generally make more money doing more selling activities in this business, right? So I think if things slow down, you guys probably just like us will start to basically keep more again, right? Because that's what you do in a slower market.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know there's a lot of stuff on Facebook and other gurus are talking about a potential slowdown soon. In pockets of Houston, there's a little bit of that going on, but overall, the economy I think is still going to be pushed along
Yeah.
and be fine.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Awesome. So what kind of advice would you give to people that are starting up, or we know people that have been in business for a few years, but now their spouse is going to come on board, or they're going to bring a family member on? What are some of the tips you would give them to make that transition and kind of be, have your eyes open as to what some of the things could go south? Plan for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the number one thing is got to be able to afford them. You can't just create a role because you want your spouse or family to work with you. That there has to be a financial need. Like any employee, any employee that comes to the table has got to be fruitful, right?
Right.
And I think that's the number one thing, and figuring out what their skill set is, because even within family members, we talked about, are you a high red, are you a green, and better understanding that process, because it really determines on that individual to be a success. So that's kind of what I would say.
Yeah, we've kind of we talk a lot about the disc profile of just seeing what's your skill set, what's your right skill set, right? And so I think it really helps. Personality profiles like that really help you understand, because sometimes people think, well, I really love doing this, but when you see their skill set from a personality profile, it's like, yeah, but you're not good at it. So there's things that even like with my wife and I, there's things that she does that she's very good at, but she just doesn't like to do it. Yeah. But you always have to have that balance, right? Of like, well, there's going to be some things that you have to do that you might not like, and then we're going to try to mix in some things that you do like, and we think you can bring the business forward there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody has roles like that. Like, you might be the CEO of the company, but sometimes you got to change the light bulb or do something, right?
Mow lawns.
As a small business, like you just got to do what you got to do when it needs it, right?
Yeah, and that brings up an interesting point, and I think that's the other thing, working with the family that we didn't talk about. I mean, anything that is asked, there's not much kickback. Hey, can you run over here and do that? Can you go over here and do that? And it's everybody working hard together for success.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Do you feel like, because you guys have done a fair bit of volume, and do you feel like with family on the team that would enable you to grow faster if you wanted to?
Yeah, absolutely. Because absolutely. Because I've got my key people in place, that going back to the trust factor and going back to the performance. I mean, we wouldn't keep them in that role or that position if they weren't performing. Yeah. And now I'm able to add on people that are such important to our business, like accounting, full-time office manager, having that person that's dedicated to the numbers game on the backside. That person's, we've been able to add her, and she's been a tremendous help to our company.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, none of us are very good at that. None of us are very good at the accounting in and outs, debit credits, but she's amazing. So we went out and got it on the outside.
Yeah, I want to tie together a couple of things that you said about bringing somebody from the outside, because the things that you're not good at, and the fact of needing to be able to afford team members. So there's a lot of, I think, newer investors that just assume I'm going to build a team, but you really have to kind of stair step your business. I mean, if you're doing a house or two a month and you're wholesaling, like you can do it yourself, right? But then it's like, hey, I really need to bring on an office manager. It's like, okay, well, you need to like, every time you look at adding an expense, you need to look at how can I bring in more revenue, right, to offset that. And so, as you get to maybe 3 to 5, then you're bringing on acquisitions managers and a buyer. If you're rehabbing, maybe a rehab manager or project manager of some sort. But I mean, you agree with what I'm saying there, right? You've got to basically find ways to grow your business. And so the business basically just gets better and easier for you. Not that it's ever easy, but as you can stair step your business and grow it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it helps us to be break down our individual performances and go faster and
right.
build things more importantly, whether it's rehabbing more houses, getting the rental property when a vacancy occurs, getting that rental property from it being vacant for 2 months because I kind of forgot about it over here, to getting it back ready to go within 2 weeks, or something like that. So
Sure.
it just allows us to be more specific in getting more efficiency for the company. So
Yeah, yeah. So how's your bench strength looking? Have you got some youngins coming up to take over positions, or how's that looking?
yeah, there's plenty of grandkids in this family to
I,
go
I
around.
think it's the first time I've ever said the word youngins, but I guess it's kind of fitting here in Texas. But my point is do you guys think about that as like children that are coming up, like hopefully they can take on these roles, or he's going to be a good acquisitions manager? I always say that about my son, like he's like a ringer negotiator. So he's only 11 now, but we're kind of planning for him down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got nieces and nephews that we think strategically later on, 17, 20 years from now, after college, hopefully they'll be prepared to come in. So
Yeah, yeah. Awesome, awesome.
but I'm sure they're already riding around with dad to rehab houses, to rental houses, and I mean they're getting exposed at the age of 2 and up.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. Hey, while I've got you here, I want to talk real fast because I know you have a lot of experience with lending and raising money on the banking side. I want to get your thoughts on, the market is slowing down a little bit. We see, like you said, we see some pockets of it in DFW and other markets around the country. It's usually some of the higher end markets or higher end parts of markets that we see slowing down a little bit more. A lot of the first time stuff is still pretty strong, but we've been through this before. When you started and when I started, the market was slow, and you kind of heard from the people that have been in business for a while about what they wish they had done in terms of lending, and what they will do the next time, right? So it's kind of to have some of those strong relationships going into a down market, because a couple of those relationships might fall out, and so you don't have all your eggs in one basket. But if people are listening right now and they feel like their market's slowing down or has the potential to start slowing down, what should they be doing right now to prepare like lending relationships for whatever happens with the market?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. And this is something I wish I had. We started our business in 2009. And like I said, we went into that banker's office and walked out with a $500,000 line of credit and filled it up with rentals. And it was just I wish I had more of those. I wasn't prepared, because we were newbies in the game, but what we're doing now is we've secured capital for many months to years to come in the event of that. And I can't stress enough that rentals work really good in a downward market, and you've got to have the capital in order to get it. And we're prepared for that. In 2009, 2010, we were newbies. We didn't have it. We were trying to create it on the fly. And it's a great time, especially in Texas, I know, on the community bank side to get going on some of your lines of credit. You can walk into a bank, and traditionally, if you've got some history of flip houses or rental houses, you're able to put a CD down and talk to the banker about potentially getting a line of credit and using that line of credit. Often, they won't give you $2 million and you just let it sit there. You've got to be able to use it, over time and prepare yourself for the downward potential turn. But yeah, I mean, in 2009, 2010, we were buying, rental properties in Katy, Texas on a slab that I'm just kicking myself because I didn't have enough money available to, I could have bought 50 more houses probably, but we weren't capitalized enough, but now we are. So I would really stress to the viewers that, start working on it now, because you really don't know what's coming down the path, and not only that, it's always great to have, lower cost of funds. I mean, it improves your business. It makes you a stronger investor. You're not having to go out and use hard money, private money. Yeah, it does work and it's good. And I still use it on sometimes too, but just my raw cash position is different than some of the guys because we are capitalized within the bank system, and I recommend, I know that, I talk about it often in our mastermind group, Investor Fuel, the Bank Bible, and getting that set up and all that kind of fun stuff. So
talk about that for a minute. Your bank Bible. I forgot about it until you just mentioned it. It's a pretty cool idea. So maybe just share a few thoughts on it.
Yeah, absolutely. It didn't come from me. It came from another investor here locally in Houston. I'm sure you know who he is. But so basically, you get a 3-ring binder and take your last 2 years of tax returns. They'll also be looking, maybe get some photos of your last rehabs, put those in there. and any bank statements you may have as well. Kind of stack them in there. Now, your bank Bible may start out kind of small, but over the years, you'll see it grow. And when you walk into that bank and you're talking to the lender about potentially getting a line of credit for flip or rental, I like to come in and kind of boom, slam it down right in front of them. It's an attention grabber is what it is.
Right.
Because here's the deal. The bankers know, guys like us are out there, but if you want to have a relationship with the bank, it's just a fun way to kind of get going. Now, he or she may not take your bank Bible. They'll probably end up just telling you, email me all this stuff. But you will turn some heads because you're prepared, you're ready to go, and it allows a simpler process. It tells the banker that, hey, this guy's for real, and see what we can do. So.
Yeah, and the purpose is just it's kind of like your portfolio, right? It's information about you. They're going to ask you for financials eventually, and they want some proof of your track record. And truthfully, whether you're interviewing for a job and you're kind of sending out resumes, I mean, as an employer, I can tell you're probably the same way. If I put an ad on Craigslist for admin, like I get hundreds of responses, right? And I have to have some way to sift those out. So I start to say, well, like, did they spell something wrong in the first line of the sentence? Like, you're just out. I don't care what your name is or what your experience is. You're trying to find ways to whittle that stack down to who should I be talking to, right? And if you have a portfolio of what you've done, that separates you from probably 90% of the people they're talking to, at least, and proactively have it, right?
Yeah.
And so I think just like you, when we first started, we had a community bank that we did a similar thing where we showed like our last 10 properties, how much we paid for them, what we made on it, how long we held it for. And they were just blown away. The first question was always, how did you buy it for so cheap, right? Like a lot of the community bankers don't really, they don't really understand our business, even though they're bankers and they lend and they do a lot of real estate stuff. The way that distressed house buyers work, that was kind of foreign to some of the people we talked to. And when we showed them that and we kind of walked them through how we get those deals, that really separated us from probably anybody else they were talking to.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I want to discuss also is that, don't get complacent if you get turned down on the first community bank you go to.
Right.
I mean, in 2009, 2010, as an entrepreneur and businessman, I probably spent half my time buying houses and the other half in banks. I mean, it was literally, I was knocking on every bank available. This is what our portfolio has. This is what we do. Can you help us?
Yep.
And raising that capital was not hard. It was very hard in that time, but it's easier now than it was back in that day for sure. So.
Awesome. Well, Brandon, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, Mike, I enjoyed it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Hey, if anybody wants to get a hold of you or learn more about your business down in Houston, where should they go?
They can shoot me an email at office@priorityhousebuyers.com. Awesome.
And we'll add a link to your site down there too. So
very cool.
Everybody, this is episode number 437 with Brandon Smith out of Houston. Some great stuff here. Honestly, I think a lot of the opportunity that happens for real estate investors is to work with your family. Honestly, we just haven't really talked about it a whole lot on this show, and so it was really cool to talk to somebody else about that. Hopefully, you got something out of it. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, on YouTube, or of course, you can watch over 1,500 videos we've created on real estate investing on flipnerd.com. So appreciate you guys. Appreciate those positive reviews. It's what keeps us going. See you on the next show. If you're an active real estate investor already doing deals and looking to double or triple your business, you should consider joining the Investor Fuel Real Estate Investor Mastermind. We're a small group of investors that share our best practices, tips, and tricks with one another in an effort to all win. Real estate investing can be a lonely business for successful real estate investors, but it doesn't have to be. Investor Fuel members meet 4 times a year, but we talk to each other 365 days a year, and we focus on improving the profitability of our businesses, improving the quality of our lives. That's why we do this, right? And making an impact on those around us so we can truly leave a legacy. We limit our membership to only 1 to 2 members per market, so everyone shares their knowledge, tips, and tricks openly and honestly. Our members include some buying 1 to 2 houses a month, up to some of the most respected investors and leaders in the real estate investing industry, some of which have personally done over 1,000 deals. If you'd like to be considered for our invitation-only world-class mastermind, please visit investorfuel.com to request your personal invitation. Our next meeting is coming up quickly. Go to investorfuel.com now to learn more. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the flipnerd.com Investing Show. If you're not yet a member of FlipNerd, you're missing out. We have tons of great training, including a new detailed masterclass published each month and live training webinars with experts twice a month. Plus, you'll get access to all of our archives, where we already have a growing library of masterclasses and other training videos. Members also get membership in our incredible online Mastermind group, where many of the top real estate investors from across the country, including many of the hundreds of guests I've had on the show in the past, are already members. Whether you're brand new, looking to get started, or a veteran, you simply must join today. I promise you won't be disappointed. To learn more or join today, please visit flipnerd.com. That's flipnerd.com. See you on the next show.